With Christelle Hur in Dhaka. She's the regional head of the advocacy at the Norwegian Refugee Council in Central and West Africa. Really good to have you with us, Christelle. Tell us more about what your research has found in terms of the impact that ongoing insecurity in the region has impacted schools and education.
Thank you very much. The consequence for children goes way beyond their education. So, of course, they are deprived of education and have been for many, many years in some countries, which mean that their access to opportunities in the future are going to be challenged. But also what we are witnessing is a lot of protection risk, meaning that indeed children are going to be more exposed to forced recruitment by armed groups. They're going to be more exposed to child labor, to exploitations. And for girls, the risks are even greater, with an increased likelihood of forced marriages, with an increased likelihood of sexual violence, for instance.
Yes, and we know that some countries in West Africa, for example, have been beset by a political upheaval. There have been a number of coups in several countries. Has that been the catalyst for some of this disruption to education among the younger populations in these countries?
Well, let's say that the insecurity is a major component of schools being closed, and the insecurity has also increased with the conflicts that have increased as well in many countries. But let's say that there are three main reasons for which schools are targeted in West and Central Africa. The first of them is for military purposes. Armed groups that are using schools are strategic points in their strategy to gain control over territory. That's the first reason. Then you have non-state armed groups that are attacking schools because they represent a symbol of government authority. And then in other cases, schools are seen as promoting ideology that goes against what these groups are promoting. But it really varies from one country to another. So, for instance, in DRC, the situation is much more complex because there is also a lot of communal conflicts and multiple humanitarian crises. So it's not necessarily only linked with political changes in these given countries.
Yes, as with most conflicts, children are often the most vulnerable when there is violence and instability. So how then can the world intervene to protect these younger populations in conflicts across the continent?
Yeah, so for instance, the first thing that we're calling for is for all parties to the conflict to cease attacks on schools and to respect international humanitarian law in that regard. So the first thing that we can do is to call all parties to the conflict to respect these human rights and international law. So that's the first thing. Then what we also know is also to have increased funding for education, so for the protection of children that are out of school, but also when schools are being reopened, for them also these children to have access to education in a safe environment, but also to make sure that they can learn again. So meaning that all of these children have been traumatized by what they have witnessed, and so they need also a lot of psychosocial support. So what we need is also more funding for this education programming, and with deeper focus on the psychosocial well-being of these children.
Okay, Christelle, we will have to leave it there for now, but the very best of luck with your work, and thank you again for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.